Are you planning a trip to Denmark? As a local living here in Copenhagen, I'm sharing 27 essential things you need to know before you visit. From the terrifying bike lanes to the social rules that will get you quietly judged, and the one city you should actually avoid. Denmark is basically cashless. I haven't really seen Danish money in years, so card and phone payments work almost everywhere here. But here's a classic tourist moment. At a tiny flea market, someone might ask, "Do you have mobile pay?" And mobile pay is a Danish payment app, a bit like Venmo, I think, where we transfer money instantly. So everyone here uses it, but it only works if you have a Danish bank account. So as a tourist, you're out of luck. VAT is already included, so there's no surprise at checkout. Denmark can feel expensive, but at least we are honest about it. In Denmark, service is included, so tipping isn't required. If it's amazing and you want to round up, go for it, but nobody expects it and you're not being rude by paying the exact amount. Most bottles and cans have a small deposit on them, so you return them at the machines in any supermarket and you get money back. So don't just throw them in the bin, collect them, return them, and then you get to feel like a local. Or if you don't want to bother with, returning them, leave them next to a public bin instead of inside it. A lot of people here collect bottles for the deposit money, and leaving them visibly outside of the bin is a nice little act of kindness. You don't need bottled water here in Denmark. Danish tap water is genuinely great, and in cafes and restaurants you just ask for tap water. It's very normal and it's usually free. If it's not free, you're in a bad place. When you come to Denmark, it's rarely one big expense. It's 40 small ones in a day, a coffee, a snack, the metro, museum, maybe a train, a beer, another coffee, and your card, it starts sweating. I've got 2 fixes for that. First off, do lunch out and then do dinner in. And don't underestimate going to the supermarket bakery or, getting a beer from the supermarket, and just bring it outside if the weather's nice. That's pretty much the Danish way to rock anyways. And for supermarkets, Netto is great and it's everywhere. We don't do small talk with strangers here, and we don't smile at everyone, we don't chat on public transport, but that doesn't mean we're unfriendly, we're just not, performing friendliness. But if you ask a Dane for help, especially outside of Copenhagen, I'd say, and most people are super friendly, and drunk Danes, completely different thing. Suddenly you're best friends and you get their whole entire life story. In the UK and the US, "How are you?" is basically hello, but in Denmark, if you ask anybody how they are, we get a bit confused and we might actually tell you how we are feeling. Also, we'd find it a bit bizarre that you'd ask us how we are if you don't even want to know and if we don't know you, so, just say hi. This is how locals spot tourists and they get a bit off, standing in doorways, stopping mid-pavement, wrong side of the escalator. If you need to check maps, pull to the side, and nobody will shout at you for standing in the middle of the sidewalk, because we are Scandinavian, so we don't show emotions, but you'll feel the Danish, behind your back, that's for sure. Loudly telling your mate your itinerary, or worse, using speakerphone on public transport. People here will stare at you like you've committed a crime. Number 1 rule in Denmark: don't involve strangers in your life. Sounds obvious as well, but tourists mess it up constantly, and this is one thing that will piss off the locals, pushing in while people are exiting, and you'll get the most Danish reaction of all time, a passive-aggressive sigh and strong eye contact. You need a valid ticket before you board anything in Denmark, and inspectors don't care that you're a tourist, you're jet lagged, or you're spiritually lost. Ticket first, always. Copenhagen airport to the city center takes less than 15 minutes by metro and train. And taxis in Denmark are insanely expensive, and here I would say it's completely unnecessary unless you've got like 5 suitcases and a violin. You know, just take the metro or the train. Also, taking the train anywhere in Denmark, look up DSB Orange or Orange Free tickets. They can save you up to 78%, I think, and they go on sale 2 months before departure, so book early because these bad boys always get sold out, and normal tickets here in Denmark are extremely expensive. This might be the most important part of the video, the bike lane. You know, that's not cute extra space for you to walk in and take selfies. It's a cycling motorway, and it's the same all over Denmark, but especially important here in Copenhagen. 94% of Copenhageners commute by bike, and we move fast, and we're not expecting you, and we will yell aggressively at you if you walk out, so please guys, stay out of the bike lanes. Alright, if you rent a bike, stay on the right side of the bike lane. Faster riders will pass you on the left, and you ride in single file, so don't ride 2 and 2 with your friend. Signal when stopping, hand up, you know, and signal when you turn, your hand out, all that. But my honest advice, Copenhagen is super walkable, and if you're not used to biking, maybe don't start learning here. Jaywalking isn't as common here as in the UK or US, and you'll often see Danes waiting at a red light even when there's no cars in sight, especially during the day. That said, we're not robots. People do jaywalk, particularly at night, but it is illegal, so look out for the police if you are feeling brave, because the law can be enforced and they will give you a fine. Trust me. Weekdays, smaller shops close by 5 or 6 p.m. and on Saturdays it's even earlier, and Sundays most stuff will be closed. It's different in Copenhagen, but the reality is that out in the smaller cities you really do need to check before shopping, especially on the weekends. Of course, supermarkets are your safety net, but even here in Copenhagen, don't expect even the big shopping malls to be open after 8 in the evening. Danish weather is chaotic. It's 4 seasons in a single day, and that could be in July as well. But the wind here, I feel, is the real villain. You'll look at the temperature and be like, oh, 6 degrees, that's fine. But the wind says otherwise, and it'll feel like -3. So it is cold here. Always wear windproof and maybe a waterproof outer layer if you're not coming here in the summertime, or you know, also if you're coming here in the summertime, and have some shoes that handle rain no matter what time of the year you're coming. I have to be honest here, guys, Danish winter isn't just cold, it's dark, and the sun rises at 8:30 in the morning and then it sets at like 3:30. So you've got barely 7 hours of grey daylight. So winter depression is basically a national condition here, just like over in Sweden and up in Norway. So unless you're coming for Christmas markets, you know, come in the spring or summertime. That's my honest advice. Vesterhavet, the west coast, has dramatic, stunning beaches, but every year tourists are drowning here. The North Sea has powerful rip currents that look invisible. Us Danes grow up learning to respect the water, especially around the North Sea, so we don't swim out. And honestly, I've heard so many horror stories that I simply stay out of the water when I'm over in that part of Denmark. But if you go and you fancy a swim, I'd highly recommend that you only do so in the areas where there are lifeguards. So enjoy the beaches. This is one of the most beautiful parts of Denmark, but do respect the sea off the west coast of Denmark. If you ask for a Danish pastry and they don't really know what you mean, it's because we call it wienerbrød, Vienna bread, bread from Vienna. And I think it was actually invented or brought to Denmark by bakers from the capital of Austria, but I guess we're getting all the credit internationally. You need to find a pølsevogn, a hot dog wagon, and order a ristet med det hele, a roasted with everything. You got ketchup, mustard, remoulade, raw onions, crispy onions, pickles. It's messy, it's cheap, and it is quite nice. Smørrebrød is open-faced sandwiches on dark rye bread, and you can get them with all kinds of toppings, and it's very important that you eat these with knife and fork. You never pick them up. That would be a classic tell that you're a tourist. Skip The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is small, crowded, and underwhelming. Just look it up on Google. But if you're nearby anyway, you can actually walk around Castellet and stroll down by the waterfront. You know, that's the good stuff, but don't walk all the way out there for The Little Mermaid. Copenhagen to Malmö by train takes only 40 minutes, and you can literally have lunch in another country and come back for dinner. And Malmö is quite nice actually, so just remember to bring your passport, because they don't check every train, but there is officially, you know, passport control, so make sure you bring your passport when you go over there. If you have 3 or 4 extra days, Bornholm is worth it. You've got rocky coastlines, charming villages, dramatic ruins at Hammershus. You can get smoked fish in all the small cities, and it doesn't feel like Denmark, but it is in the best possible way. I feel like this is the best place to go in Denmark if you are into pretty nature. Okay, so Odense is famous for one thing. Hans Christian Andersen was born here. And they will not let you forget it, because everything is named after him. The festival, the streets, the garden, the statue, the other statue. But here's the thing, guys. Hans Christian Andersen left Odense when he was 14. 14. He was so eager to get out that he left when he was still just a wee boy. And locals will always try and tell you that the city has actually improved. You know, it's actually not that bad now. We have a tram. Like, a tram. Cool. So if your whole personality is Hans Christian Andersen, sure, visit Odense. But if not, just skip it and enjoy the rest of Denmark. Alright, now you know how to behave like a local in Denmark, but what should you actually do when you get here? Since you're most likely starting in the capital, you need to see this video where I break down the best things to do in Copenhagen, including a few spots that most tourists totally walk past. Have a good one, and remember to subscribe for more travel content. Thanks.